What does a platypus, pyramids, and cancel culture have in common? We don't know why the fuck any of these things exist. I've talked about this before, how cancel culture's cultural effect is a regressive one, and how people who indulge in this manner of frontier justice honestly do so in bad faith, with good intentions being a thin veil for what's in reality an outright attack on someone or something a majority of the time. And even when there's a circumstance where you think a thing like this should be sprung forth, it still fails to have any long-lasting effects or changes. I want to say 60 to 70% of the time, with the 40 to 30% being instances where people legitimately commit crimes or break laws. I am being very, very, very generous with that guesstimate. So why does something so utterly fallible still continue to attempt to trample over the lives and well-being of individuals? Why is mob mentality so persistent in today's social atmosphere? Is it because of social media? Yeah. I think the quarantine has made sparking a national pastime, with the amount of Andes going hyperbolic on social media going up 1%. I think is at least 1,000. Never before in history has this many niggas been inside at the same time the bubonic plague was a thing. A bunch of stir-crazy pseudo-loners who don't even realize their worldview has shifted from the world around them to the world reflected through a black mirror. You have to ask yourself though, at what point is enough enough? When is finding reasons to vindicate your personal angst or anger become more important than appreciating life? You spend all day browsing the Twitter trending page looking for someone to shit on, and fueled by unjustified malice, you spur up erroneous arguments that are in bad faith just so you can bring someone down to your little shit level. And what does that do? What do you end up with? I'm seriously asking this, by the way. This isn't a hypothetical. What do you hope to achieve with doing these things? What long-lasting effect do you wish to permit? The thing about cancel culture as a phenomenon with me personally is that people very rarely, if at all, articulate the actual usefulness of digitized mob mentality. When the conversation about cancel culture is brought up, people don't discuss objectively about cancel culture. The conversation is them justifying their emotional stance behind why they support or are against it. I've yet to witness objective dialogue about such a subjective thing, and that's because cancel culture is just that: subjective viewpoints and personal interpretations weaponized to a fault. Do you know how many times I've seen people take harmless situations and exacerbate or warp their meaning entirely to force the situation at hand to line up one for one with their own personal standing? People do that shit all the time. Obama gave his wife a dap and Fox News called it a terrorist fist bump. Black people do that shit too fucking much. I saw some shit the other day about people wailing about something harmless on Facebook. Some nigga stuck his tongue out and the sportscaster said it reminded him of Gene Simmons, and look at the replies. Jalen Hurts throws a touchdown and channels his inner Gene Simmons. #Eagles.
Black people and white people really do live in two different worlds.
Not only they need to hire more black writers, but good white sports writers as well. Like how many times we seen Shaq and Steve McNair do this. Gene Simmons. They always gotta put raisins in. What the fuck is a Gene Simmons? There they go with that bullshit. You know what? Never mind. We know what they talking about. They're this clueless is exactly why we can write for them. But they should never be writing. Just as a rule of thumb, black people don't. I am so interested in his people. When someone told him that the world don't revolve around y'all, and that has absolutely nothing to do with funky ass Gene Simmons. Did that white man just tell a joke? What's so funny, nigga? Racism?
My whole thing personally is this: group consensus doesn't make things objectively right. I said this so many times now, but morality is subjective. As an individual, when I cast judgment with a collective of other individuals, our trial by jury is not propagated by due process, and the appropriate measurements under which judgment is passed as fairly as possible. We typically just go off our reactions and let that decide how we should go about the situation.
I don't care, fuck that bitch ass nigga, fuck him.
We're not judges, we're not law enforcers, we're not people qualified aptly to make those judgments, so when we do, the methods are 9 times out of 10 going to be inherently flawed, because people are inherently flawed. The problem with that though is you have to ask, what kind of people advocate to judge, condemn, or ruin other people's lives? What kind of person propagates a culture where success of any measurement is retroactively destroyed because of decisions or actions made years prior to that point, as if people can't grow or evolve? And like I said, don't get me started on the accuracy or lack thereof of these accusations. It scares me when people try to justify hurting, destroying, or ruining innocent people's careers by citing them as casualties. You want to be anti-government and anti-establishment, but when you people metaphorically bomb villagers because there was a rumor going around of occult worship only to find out it was one nigga with a Black Sabbath t-shirt, somehow you justify it as heroic because of your intentions. What the fuck is up with judging others by their actions, yet somehow we expect to be judged by our intentions? Let me tell you what cancel culture actually is. A cocktail of half-cocked allegations mixed with direct claims towards persons and parties that results in a cataclysmic chain reaction where the innocent and guilty are both put in a barrel that's set on fire, and whoever lives and still manages to walk out is deemed guilty regardless of their innocence. It's a fucked situation through and through. Cancel culture is the belligerent swinging of a hammer, condemning whoever is too slow to jump or duck. And while forever skis like Sky Williams, who's revealed to have done horrendous deeds that went unpunished, there's people like Pro Jared, Tobuscus, Jenna Marbles, PewDiePie, Slazo, Pyrocynical, and many other false claims that hindered, halted, or ruined careers, with the false accusers virtually unscathed because the culture immunizes the person who fired first. If there's 60 people in the crowd and 20 of them are criminal offenders and I open fire killing 40, that doesn't make it justice because the only perspective available is that they're all guilty. I could go on how cancerous cancel culture is, but just know these niggas are bored. The true victims suffer regardless. This won't change the fact that they're victims. Half the time, all they can reconcile is some form of retribution. All of this is emotional, regardless of validity. None of this is calculated in due process. And the only reason the flock is so deep is because we're all at home. Avoiding missed calls from Miss Rona jacking off into a cum sock so often is no longer a cum sock, it's the cum sock, you know? I don't know how many ways to tell you niggas are in the house board, you know, so, you know, yeah, you know, they've been there a long time. To me, I see it like this. These people, they see themselves as a controlled force of nature, right? Like a wildfire that burns through the Amazon to purge any old impurities and corruption and allow the new flora to go through clean and new as it should. But what it actually is giving one man infinite ammo in his flamethrower and telling him to sweep through buildings on a whim. It's subscribing to one individual mindset and then basing all further due process citing that mindset. It's not an event or a force of nature. It's a warpath from a singular perspective. And like with any war, there is an unprecedented number of casualties, and we scoff them off because we justify it in our minds by saying they're all bad guys, and exalt ourselves by claiming we are heroes preemptively. The more you people do this shit, the more I start to think the governments of the world aren't corrupt for the sake of. This is just a natural conclusion to give an absolute power to something as turbulent as a human being. I don't think it's ever going away though. People love it when other people are shittier than them because it gives them something to focus on. Drama is the most abundant form of entertainment in which we all enjoy speculating, interpreting, witnessing, instigating, you name it. Something about discourse attracts people, and I've accepted at this point that it is an inevitable we cannot escape. I used to have this utopian idealism to evolve past that, but in my arrogance, I failed to realize we as human beings cannot exist without problems, grand or minor. So the fact others can be problematic will always be a point of contention we as people will never abstain from. It's just part of human nature. My thing now, however, is let's not pretend that's not what we're doing. Cancel culture isn't noble. A lot of you people just genuinely enjoy passing judgment, and a lot more of you people who instigate this shit just want attention, some form of validation or reconciliation from a collective of people you see larger or more important than yourselves. But you're lazy. You don't want to actually earn that. You don't want to push towards that through legitimate means. In a world of instantaneous gratification, we want the reward as fast as we solve or find the problem. So the reward for being heroic is what people are after when they spot a situation in which to enact themselves into. And sitting on their ass in the comfort of their home, immune to consequences for condemning another, is the easiest way to feel like a hero while doing nothing heroic at all. So you know, this has been ArchWizard CJ. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I wish you all a good morrow, and I'm off for the time being, and thank you for listening.